I have no clue what they are feeding animation studio staff recently in Japan, but it is working. Over the last few years, anime has really come into its potential, at least in regard to its global presence. In the past 5 to 6 years, we've had superb anime such as Violet Evergarden, Jujutsu Kaisen, Vivi Fluorite Eyes Song, Megalobox, The Aquatope of White Sands, and also movies like A Silent Voice, Jose the Tiger and the Fish, and Belle. These anime and movies have shown beyond a reasonable doubt that there is much more of a focus or even a sort of pressure to create visuals that can capture the viewer's attention and heart just as much as the story does. The most glaring instance of that, for me, was the switch in animation studios between My Teen Romantic Comedy Snafu Season 1 and Seasons 2 and 3. I don't personally remember the circumstances that brought about that switch, and frankly it's not really important, but while I was already interested in the show, the animation quality jump from this to this definitely increased my enjoyment of the show. I promise despite this rambly beginning I'm getting to Cloverworks, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is that anime that clearly have time and effort invested into squeezing the maximum quality out of every facet are a cut above the rest. And the thing that has most recently stuck out to me is the subtle, or sometimes not so subtle, art of characters within the world. And no better example, in my opinion, than 2 anime that are currently coming out this season, My Dress-Up Darling and Akabi's Sailor Uniform. These 2 anime, of course, are helmed by the studio Cloverworks, whom I will laud to death in this video for character design. Cloverworks is an animation studio that is relatively new to the scene, technically. They were once a studio underneath A1 Pictures, just a branch. Then they were rebranded as Cloverworks and given charge over certain projects, like Darling and the Franxx, where their name first became known, for better or worse. And since then they have really set themselves apart as their own establishment. In the first year of their rebranding alone, they worked on or were entirely in charge of anime like Persona 5 the Animation, Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, and as mentioned, Darling and the Franxx. All 3 of these shows got an extreme amount of attention, both good and bad, but for a newly rebranded studio, this was all good things. As they say, all press is good press. They've gone on to make anime like The Promised Neverland, Wonder Egg Priority, Shadow's House, and Horimiya, all of which are superb anime in their own right. Now, this year they have 7 entire series airing, which means sometimes having 2 to 3 shows airing at the same time throughout the year. I do not know if the animators there have eaten or slept in the last 5 years. This winter 2022 season, Cloverworks has 2 shows airing simultaneously, that being the aforementioned My Dress-Up Darling and Akabi's Sailor Uniform. Both of these shows have absolutely captivated me since episode 1, and in large part I attribute that to the character design and animation. With both of these shows, the word that comes to mind is shining. The characters in both of these are literally and metaphorically shining. Not all of the time, of course, because that's just not how life works, but both of the anime deal with people finding their ways, and they emphasize this in the characters. The thing that always really draws me in with Cloverworks anime is their insane attention to faces and facial expressions. Body language too, but I'm going to touch on that a little less. The faces in both design and execution are honestly breathtaking. They put an incredible amount of work into ensuring that the outward emotions and underlying feelings are conveyed as clearly as possible. I believe some of what has set Cloverworks apart is their choice in manga to adapt. They tend to choose manga or light novels that already feature very unique character design. In particular, I think of The Promised Neverland and Akabi's Sailor Uniform. The characters in both of the source material, and thusly in the show, are very, let's say realistic? And what I mean when I say realistic like that is they're all different face shapes and skin colors, eye shapes, nose, ears, etc. They go into great detail to make sure the characters' unique identities are fully realized through every part of their design, much more so than cookie cutter cut and paste designs with minor deviations to show who the main characters are. This altogether serves to make the show feel less otherworldly and provide a quality that is much more, I would say, human. In stark contrast to the realism that they achieve in that regard, they juxtapose it with even more exaggerated facial expressions than most other anime. things like the way the light plays off of the eyes, the smiles that fill their whole face, the tears that stream down their cheeks in rivers, cheeks pulling taut in frustration as they grit their teeth. It's just an insane amount of detail, and yet somehow that hyper exaggeration just works. Now obviously this is a 100% subjective video. I knoweth not your standards for beauty, or what you deem as peak anime performance, or whatever. But to me, this stuff is just tops. Speaking of tops, the other thing that has started cropping up, not only in these two shows, but in others as well, is an emphasis on clothes. Clothing in anime has always been something that I kinda had gripes with. It's almost used like an afterthought or a tool for simple sexualized anecdotes. Most characters, no matter what the show is, will wear 1 to 3 outfits in the entire run of the show, some of the alternates only coming up in like one episode because they're on a date or something. Usually this makes sense because they are wearing some type of work or school uniform, but in general I've always felt it somewhat detracted from the show. Now, unlike live action media, it is much harder for a character to just walk off set and change clothes. It's a whole different set of drawings and sometimes rigging and animation requirements depending on the complexity of the outfit. However, recently both manga artists and subsequently animation studios have begun to put a lot more effort into the clothing that they arrange for their characters. Not only that, but the way that the clothes move on characters has become almost its own art form, mimicking real life clothes in ways that I would say honestly thus far Disney is the only one that puts that much effort in. And specifically for the two shows Dress Up Darling and Akabe's Sailor Uniform, obviously the clothes are extremely important. For Dress Up Darling, it's cosplay, the making of it, how it fits on the intended person, the nuances of stitching, pattern making, wigs, etc. It all just culminates when they are on the intended subject, and Cloverworks has gone to incredible lengths to make that apparent. In Akabe's Sailor Uniform, it's about making a statement, in a way. The rest of the girls are in blazers and normal uniforms, but effort is made to show their uniqueness with their character designs. Like I mentioned before, the facial structures and skin tones and accents and all of that. Yet all the characters still have more than one outfit, and the outfits they wear, even if they're the same, move and reflect who they are on more so than in other shows. It feels like you're looking at a uniform that that individual bought intentionally, and it is sized for them. It only works for them. Honestly, I've rambled on for far too long. Cloverworks is just an incredible studio, and honestly, I would put them second in my favorites behind Kyoto Animation and really close to Mappa in third. They kinda swap on occasion. You didn't ask for that information, but I'm giving it anyway, and I don't know how to end videos, especially after I just vomited feelings all over the place, but I have to edit this, and it's getting kinda daunting. Thank you all for watching. I hope my point got across to somebody, even though I'm not even sure what my point is or was at this time. I'm Papadopoulos, and I'll see y'all later.